So a very warm welcome to each one of you today. Welcome to Brock University, Niagara Region, St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, because some of you have been traveling from far. I'm Chantal Buteau. I'm from the Department of Mathematics and Statistics at Brock University.
And I am Immaculate Kizito-Namkasa from Western University.
We are thrilled to see so many of you at this symposium, Coding, Computational Modeling, and Equity in Mathematics Education. This is a wonderful afternoon. We have some sun today. Let's enjoy it. And we are delighted to welcome each one of you to this 3-day 2023 symposium. As we get started, I invite Dr. Stephen Kahn from Brock Faculty of Education to give land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Chantal. Brock University acknowledges that the land in which we gather is a traditional shared territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples and other nations who have called this area home for many generations, and whose continued presence is a reminder to consider our relationships with the land which shares its life with us. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. We acknowledge that we are beneficiaries of this peace and friendship treaty. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous peoples. Our Congress with a place entails a recursive elaboration, a process of learning about, with, and from the many presences who make themselves known in a place, that is, who teach. I want to share a little of what this place is teaching me. This place, the Niagara region and St. Catharines in particular, is an important place of teaching and learning. The name is thought to be an anglicized derivative of the Haudenosaunee word Ongniagara, meaning thundering waters, or resounding with great noise, and also neck. Someone's calling in. Wampum are tubular purple and white beads made from whelk and quahog clam. Belts made of wampum were used to mark agreements between peoples of the Great Lakes. Since the wampum is made from parts of creation, they are believed to have spirit and to pass the knowledge of the agreements made from generation to generation to generation to the present and tomorrow. For me, this is another way of understanding what it means to be a treaty person in Canada, as a settler and as an immigrant. The dish, sometimes called the Bowl with One Spoon Wampum Agreement, is a treaty among the First Nations of the Great Lakes to live together, sharing the land. The earth is the one dish that provides for all of us, human and non-human, and we only have one spoon to use. So you take only what you need, leaving something in the dish for others. You keep the dish clean, which means taking care of and protecting the land so that we ensure that the bowl is never empty. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. The Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement is in effect an algorithm that stands counter to greedy algorithms, adversarial networks, the doctrine of discovery, and individual optimization frameworks that would aim to possess both dish and spoon. These and other codes are a form of AI, ancestral intelligence, or what we might call wisdom. They serve as a reminder of the importance of maintaining conviviality. And so as we begin our symposium, I encourage you to spend time with this place and to continue your own learning about the codes and models that are running. Thank you.
I'm now pleased inviting Dr. Peter Berg, who is Dean from the Faculty of Math and Science in Brock University, to give us some words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chantal. It's a pleasure to be here. I just joined Brock in January, actually, so some of you know this place better than I do. What I've learned, it's a very friendly place. Friendliest campus I've been on or at in my life, and I've been probably working and studying at 8 of them. So this is the winner. Let's make sure, Chantal, that the guests will think the same when they leave. I'm quite impressed. So when I worked mostly with Chantal and Dorothy, they kept me up to speed on what's going to happen during these few days. I have very little to do with this, other than being proud of what's happening, because I noticed what kind of people it has attracted, and I'm very pleased about that. So I welcome all of you, and some have really traveled from quite far, and some of you are clearly a leader in their field, and I'm very happy to see that, and also I will try to attend some of these sessions. So the title, Coding, Computational Modeling, and Equity in Mathematics Education, I was thinking about these three aspects. Coding, of course. Oh my goodness. So some of my students who graduated, who got their degree in computing science, and now they work in software industry, they're telling me, Peter, some of us will even be laid off because of AI. It's kind of ironic almost, right? Like they got all the skills to do the coding and the software skills, and now they're telling me that their jobs are no longer safe because of AI. It's sort of, what do you make of that? So the field of coding itself will change quite a bit. And they're telling me, don't become a web programmer. Don't do it, because that will be 2 or 3 years away. You just click on your website. So we're here in a space where we're trying to catch up in some ways in many of these topics. And I don't even know where some of the stuff is going. Computational modeling. So that's interesting. I remember as an undergrad student, I picked up a book from a bookstore in Germany for one mark, Deutschmark, right, in those days, but it was in English. It was The Computer and the Brain by John von Neumann. And I read this and I thought, is the brain really a computer? I didn't believe it somehow. And of course, if you read that book, as much as it was written, I don't think it was finished by him before he passed away. He makes comparisons about into what degree the brain might be computer and how it may not be a computer that we know computers. So semiconductor, sort of silicon-based computer, right? And it intrigued me a lot. And since then, a lot of things have happened, especially in brain science. And now my own research is in electrochemistry. So the brain really is an electrochemical device in some ways. And yet some of you will be speaking about computational thinking. And then so I'm thinking like, so what is computational thinking then? Is it silicon-based? Is it electrochemistry? What is it? This is a concept. So I'm looking forward to that session. And then the last one is equity in mathematics. I have a very much an interest in this event, because currently I have a project with colleagues in Eswatini, which used to be called Swaziland. And actually my student is supposed to go the next week, but they're on strike now. So I don't know if you can still go, but we're supposed to hand over a platform we developed together with the colleagues at the University of Eswatini. And basically what it is, it's a sort of cloud-based solution to design interactive electronic textbooks. So we'll see if that works out. But the thing is that what it allows the students there and the colleagues is that they have trouble with reliable internet and power supply, right? So one of the needs they have is if they can go to a local library, like their own library in the university, download the electronic textbooks. So that's free and they can do that. And they can work on them at home. And they don't rely on internet anymore. And the data plans are very expensive. So I'm telling you, my little experience with colleagues over there is that when we think, or when I think of equity issues in Canada, there can be very different equity issues in other parts of the world. So I'm looking also forward to some of the talks being given in this regard. Okay, other than that, I want to don't keep it too long, hand over to the next person. I'm very happy you're all here, and I'd like to thank the organizers. And I know there's more than just Chantal and Dorothy. I noticed that, of course. I'd really like to thank everyone who helped organize this session. I also like to thank the sponsors, and with that, I hand over back to Chantal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, there are more people, and we will acknowledge them all a little bit later today. We haven't forgotten about it. I would like now to invite Dr. Marie-Louise Vanderlei, who is Dean from the Faculty of Education here at Brock.
Welcome, everyone. It's so wonderful to see faces and bodies attached to them. So wonderful. I know the field that you are exploring and talking about in the next few days is very, very important. My background is in early childhood, and never have we seen so much technology available to young children, and the importance of helping them to use the tools to to better understand their world. So I look forward to hearing what some of you have to say about the early years and how we use the technology, the coding, the computational mathematics to help children understand their place in their space and how to engage in ways that they feel they contribute and belong. So those are very important pieces to keep in mind as we continue having discussions around the coding and computational mathematics. And I think that's also where the whole notion of ethics comes in, is what is available to children to explore, to experience, to better understand how to use the tools, but are those tools actually available equitably across the schools, across the nation, and across the globe? So what do we do to make sure students don't fall behind in their understanding of their place in their space? So those are important issues, and I know some of that will pop up over the course of the next few days. I thank you for coming. I look forward to seeing what you come up with in your conversations. We do have wonderful property around that we are on campus. The blossoms are in bloom. They came out just for you. We have a healing garden where one can sit and reflect and think about the conversations they are having, and inspire you to think forward about the pathways that you have ahead of you. So much exciting things are happening in this realm. And again, it affects everyone, not only the young children, but in understanding our place in our space and how we use the tools to better situate ourselves, to communicate, to problem solve, to inspire in all kinds of ways. So thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoy your time together.
Thank you so much, Dean Vanderlee, and thank you so much, Dean Berg, for that welcoming remarks. Once again, I would like to welcome everyone to this symposium on coding, computational thinking, computational modeling, and equity in mathematics education symposium. It's a beautiful day. It's a wonderful campus, and many things have lined up well for us to be here. Nice space to be meeting, lots of fresh air. The symposium is for practitioners, leaders, policymakers, administrators, and researchers, both established and emerging and graduate researchers who are from a diverse backgrounds and situations. So we can see from the composition of who is here today and where they're coming from. So we have really a large number of graduate or emerging scholars, and that's very incredible for us to see that participation of almost half researchers, scholars, and half educators and graduate scholars. So we know, some of us, that yesterday this symposium was preceded by a PD day, where we also did have educators doing their workshops. So we are gathered to this symposium on CCME in mathematics education, or CCMEME. And the symposium seeks to provide a forum for discussing emerging practical issues and sharing new perspectives and research topics on 3 critical themes or meanings. So our major theme, as you will see, is the theme of meanings and interactions between computational thinking and mathematical thinking, and that's our major theme, and that's where I was getting the word mathematical thinking and quickly replacing computational modeling, which is our major topic of this theme, of this symposium. Now, our second theme is about integrating that coding and computational modeling in those mathematics classrooms and pedagogical contexts at all levels, right from elementary or even earlier to the university, including in teacher education. And the third theme is more of the theoretical and practical understanding in terms of how to improve equity in this integration. And you've heard out the word students participating, students contributing, but as well as feeling that they belong to these spaces of coding and computational thinking in classrooms, in the community, as well as in society. So at this symposium, as we participate, it's part of a legacy of many symposia. The first symposium was online, and this is a long time ago. It was funded by the Fields Institute, and one of us who is here today, Professor George Gandanides from Western University, was its lead organizer. Now, Seema Papat, who many of us cite in our work on computational thinking, was the keynote speaker, and this was in 2001. I think we would have referred to it today as a webinar or something else, but then it was referred to as an online symposium. So in terms of contexts, there's many contexts that we have been exploring at symposiums. Prior to the popularization of the term computational thinking from the computer science perspective, such as by Janet against Wing that has been referenced, Seema Papat himself in the 1990s championed the efforts that designed and researched coding contexts for use in teaching outside computer science. Researchers and practitioners explored opportunities for children, youth, and younger adults to use computers, the tools, the concepts, and the practices in classrooms. So we see here some of the concepts, and I'm pleased to let you know that we have speakers that have explored some of those concepts at this symposium and at previous symposium. So I here would like to recognize the varied contexts, many contexts, the varied contexts that have been spoken about at symposia. I'm going to stay with this slide for a little bit. So in terms of what has been spoken about at various symposia, we've had computational literacies by one of our keynote speaker today, who is from the US. We've spoken about computational modeling with microworlds with one of our panelists. So one of our speakers who speaks about computational literacies, Andrea DeSessa, and the ones who speak about computational modeling, Celia Hoyles and Richard Noss from the UK, as well as Chantal Bouteau and George Gandanides from the US. Now we also have explored at past symposium. We have explored computational participation, and Yasmin Kafai from the US was a keynote in 2015, and Michelle Wilkerson was a keynote in 2017. Now we've also had speakers at some of our sessions online, featured speakers speaking about computational experiences, and Brent Davis is here from Western Canada as a speaker at this symposium as well. He spoke in 2020. We have speakers who have spoken about computational affect, computational and mathematical thinking, computational thinking using tools, and thinking with media. Speaking at various conferences. So Lynn English came to us in 2017 from Australia. Paul Drivers from the Netherlands spoke in 2020, and Kingos Kronis spoke in 2020, and he's from Greece, as well as Ricardo Scacuglia spoke in 2020, and he's here with us, and he's from Brazil. So we do have a large representation at this symposium, participating, but also from previous symposium. So in particular at this symposium, we have representation from many countries, and this is exciting for us. We have representation from as far as Australia, where we have one of our panelists from Korea. We have a panelist from Norway, from the UK, and from the Americas, as you can see on our map here. So as I have said, we have a legacy of symposia, and some of these were organized at Western University. Some were hosted elsewhere, such as the Ontario Tech University. So it's been 20 years of engagement on topics related to use of technology and adoption of technology in education. So this symposia, we are not only the only engagement in this topic. 20 years ago, Brock University itself has had 2 decades of engagement of teaching to use programming in project-based mathematics. And this was very independent from the one at Western. So at Brock, computational modeling has been integrated in undergraduate mathematics courses in years 1, 2, 3 for math majors and future mathematics teachers in mathematics and science. So these courses are referred to as the MICA, which is mathematics integrated with computers and applications. So as this was happening for school children, it was also happening in universities in terms of engaging in computer processes, concepts, and practices outside computer science classrooms. So the Brock research team just recently came together with the Western research teams starting in 2017 to co-organize symposia and communities of practice. This collaboration was in part supported by the Mathematics Knowledge Network, which was funded by the provincial government of Ontario. So during the period of 4 years, 2018 to 2022, and I think I'm doing my math correct, it might be 5 years if I count on my fingers. But during this period of 4 years, Professor Gandanides and Professor Buto did host webinars and seminar series, and many of them were online in 2020. So we can see the line of speakers that I have been speaking about, as well as the activity, including the symposium and the engagement of the Mathematics Education Forum, with whom we are collaborating on Saturday at one of the sessions, bringing in people online. So the 2015 and 2017 symposium, while they were happening on coding and computational thinking respectively in math education, they did happen at a crucial time when provincial, national, and international interests in governments, in schools, in universities, in industry, and also in outreach context, there were interest in these topics. And this spurred a movement of curricular, pedagogical, and assessment revisions to include the development of these skills and ways of thinking among students, starting at the lower grades in elementary schools, including early kindergarten classes. So for us in Ontario, for those who are visiting from other provinces or from elsewhere, the ministry did introduce the learning and use of coding skills as part of its mathematics in grades 1 to 8 previously, and now they're moving forward to grade 9. And also in science, the science curriculum recently came out, and that also does include portions of artificial intelligence. So that was happening in the province, and it was paralleled with other initiatives in other provinces. And we're looking forward during the rest of the symposium to hear about all the other efforts in other provinces and countries. Now, something else was happening at the international level. So the Program for International Student Assessment, PISA, for the first time ever in 2022, decided to assess CT. I guess they assumed it had been taught for a while. So in their assessment, they were speaking about assessing CT as a component of mathematical literacy, and did mention that students should possess and be able to demonstrate CT skills as they apply to mathematics as part of their problem-solving practices. This dramatic uptake of coding and computational modeling in school curricula around the world has been coupled with growing concerns. Most important is the concern of addressing historical, multi-generational, and persistent inequities related to bias, discrimination, marginalization, and injustices, and most recently complexities already resulting from the use of algorithms and recently artificial intelligence tools in solving real life and especially societal problems. So we gather at this symposium to share, discuss, and build partnerships around approaches, perspectives, and experiences that advance our understanding on the questions of practical and theoretical nature. And there's quite a few. So we focus on only 3 of these questions. So the first major question, how can we be working towards more equitable outcomes rather than reproducing injustices and limiting opportunities for certain groups of people to advance meaningfully and to participate in computational spaces? How can coding and computational modeling be practically and meaningfully integrated in mathematics classrooms across the educational levels and in teacher education? And the final one, which we're engaged in beginning 2017, it still remains. In what ways can we carefully delimit city, its nature and place in relation to mathematics, which also majorly involves computations? So the symposium plans and program, especially the keynote speakers, panelists, the reactors, the working group leaders, and poster presenters will provoke all of us, the participants, to tackle emergent questions and those that remain on these topics for the next 3 days. And so our aim at this symposium is to strengthen and facilitate more and broader partnerships, research programs, collaborations, and support emerging scholarship, as well as to enrich public discourse and policy. Now, our second aim is to support enhanced practice and research related to teaching and learning with attention to equitable participation and learner outcomes. And we are very intentional in terms of our program with those aims, particularly the equitable participation and the enhancing collaborations and partnerships. I'll next pass this to Chantal to provide more details about the scientific program.
Thank you, Immaculate. So in our program, we have 4 main plenary sessions. Tonight, we will have the keynote by Dr. Disesa, entitled 5 Powerful Ideas about Technology and Education, and a reaction by Dr. Davis. Tomorrow, we will have a discussion panel on the question, how do computational thinking and mathematical thinking interact? That will be shared by Dr. Gerde with panelists Dr. Drivers, Geraniu, and Dr. Lockwood. In the evening, we will have a second keynote presentation by Dr. Christian, entitled Coded Bias, Decoding Racism in AI Technologies, with a reaction by Dr. Eglash. And on Saturday, we will have a panel discussion on the challenges and opportunities of integrating computational thinking and coding in the mathematics classroom. That will be as in a collaboration, we're very thrilled about that, with the Fields Method Forum, and that means that will be live streamed as their April session. And this session, this panel will be chaired by Professor Dame Celia Hoyles, with panelists Dr. Modest, Dr. Pietro Rodriguez, Dr. Kwan, and Dr. Gedenadis. And so that is for the main part of the 4 plenaries. We will have more introduction about these 4 plenary sessions. But as Immaculate mentioned, these plenary sessions will serve to provoke us to tackle questions that we formulated at the start and proposed in and emerging from our work in the working group sessions, which is actually the central activity for this symposium. I would now like to invite Dr. I'm missing my word, sorry, Skukulia, to introduce the working group. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. It's my great pleasure to introduce the leaders of the working groups. In working group A, named Coding and Computational Modeling in Elementary and Early Years Mathematics Education, the leaders are Ian Brody, Stephen Kahn, and Sandy Humans. So I would ask you, please, to these leaders to stand up just for a second. Thank you. And I would also ask the participants that subscribed for working group 1 to raise your hands. Very nice, thank you. So for working group B, named Coding and Computational Modeling in Secondary and University Mathematics Education, sorry. There you go. Coding and Computational Modeling in Secondary and University Mathematics Education. The leaders are Franz Caron, Stephen Floyd, and Miroslav Lovrik. I would also ask you guys to stand up just for a moment, please. Thank you so much. And if you are a participant that subscribed to working group B, please raise your hands. Very nice, thank you. And finally, in working group C, we go, named Equity, Diversity, and Inclusivity in Coding and Computational Modeling in Mathematics Education. The leaders are Annie Savard, Ricardo Scuculha, and Diane Tepilo. So I will also ask you to stand up, please. Here we go, thank you. And if you are a participant that subscribed for working group C, please raise your hand. That's great. So thank you very much. And I would like to thank all the organizers for, accepting the invitation and working hard in planning all the working groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. And I forgot to mention, Ricardo is from the University of São Paulo from Brazil and is part of the Western group. I would like now to invite Dr. Joyce Mgombelo from Brock University, who will talk to us about the poster session.
Thank you, everyone. I'm also part of the local organizers, so I should take this moment and say welcome to Brock. And we ordered this especially for you. So whatever you see, the weather, it's our effort that we. Okay, so I'm here to talk about another session, very interesting session that is going to happen tomorrow. And this is the poster session. But I worked with my colleague, Marisol, who is online. Unfortunately, she was not able to come to Brock. Marisol, can you say hi?
Hello, everybody.
Oh, you turn out the sound. Okay, I'll say hi on your behalf, Marisol. So thank you, everyone who submitted your proposal for the posters. We have two kinds of the poster sessions. We have what we call practice-based or focused innovative practices. And we have those that are on research focused. All together, we have 19 posters. So please get prepared. I see people are taking pictures because I won't read 19 posters for this at this time, but they are also available, the description on the website as well, and you can see. So they range really, from all levels, I would say, elementary, secondary, pre-service, university as well, undergraduate. But they're very, very interesting posters. And I, for one, I look forward for the session, and I hope you too will enjoy the posters. Now, I have to say for all those presenters, thank you again. Just a reminder that you will have to post your poster tomorrow at 8:30. We will provide the pins for you to post your poster. And actually, it's very close where we are doing the poster session. It's just around here, very close. And you'll have people that will show you where to go. Again, the poster is at the same time with our lunch, but so we give time for the poster presenters to have food at first. So officially we'll start the poster at 1:45, right, Chantal? 1:45, but you're welcome, obviously, to see the posters because they'll be there. I don't think I have forgotten anything. No, thank you and welcome again. Sorry, I didn't go like that.
Thank you, Joyce. Yes, we will start with the lunch, and to help motivate you to come and walk around the poster session, dessert is served until then with coffee when we start the poster session. Hopefully we will see you around. You're very welcome, Amy. And now back to the PD session. I invite Stephen and Marja from Western and Brock to talk to us briefly about the pre-symposium.
Okay, my name is Marja and this is Dr. Stephen Kwan. So we were really lucky and blessed to have this opportunity. It was a 2-year process just because it was delayed because of COVID. And our presenters were amazing in the way that they worked hard. They brought lots of materials, resources. We had basically things from robots to microcontrollers like the microbit and stuff like that. We also had screen-based technologies and softwares. And we also had math apps that they were sharing with the teachers. There were lots of resources that the teachers were able to get. Even though it was a little bit less turnout just because of teachers taking jobs or medical issues, it was still a wonderful turnout and people seemed to really enjoy it. The other thing we did notice was that whether the sessions were small or large, people were really engaged and involved in the process and really seemed to enjoy it.
The other part of the PD day yesterday involved lots of discussions around AI and ethics and equity. So there were some of those conversations as well, which the participation in those sessions was excellent in terms of the questions that were asked and thinking for us for the symposium. Not mention anything as well as the professional development aspect has also been a part of previous symposia, often same way preceding the actual event and involving participants. So it's always good to have researchers and graduate students interacting with teachers in the field and pre-service teachers, yes.
I also wanted to mention the fact that I felt that it was a wonderful precursor just to this symposium and the way it really set the tone nicely. It did talk about and address some of the issues that we will be discussing when we're talking about equity, inclusivity, diversity, as well as different levels. So it went from K all the way up to grade 12. So we were able to draw in a lot of diversity when it came to the participants. So thank you so much.
So Dr. Mgombero forgot to mention that another thing they ordered for us just before we came for the symposium was the no mask mandate. And it arrived in time for the symposium. So such a well lined up program with different participation would not have been possible without the different organizing committee. And I would truly like to thank the organizing committees, which included emerging scholars and graduate students, for their dedicated work under the leadership of their committee chairs. So I'm going to be mentioning the committees and asking the people on the organizing committees to stand up. So we have the local organizing committee with their chairs. Can you please, yeah, thank you. Local organizing committee with their chairs. So they've been responsible for coordinating with Brock's conference services on booking spaces, ensuring the IT needs are met, and planning meals and accommodation. Now, Brock does use different platforms than the platform we wanted to use for the online participation, and they really worked hard to make that happen for us. We are using Zoom today. I would like also to introduce the PD Day Committee with their chairs. So they have been responsible for the program, for the workshop, for teachers, and that was a wonderful day yesterday. We were in a different space, still an atrium, and still seeing the blossoms outside there, so beautiful spaces, and wonderful day for all of us that attended. And finally, I would like to introduce the Scientific Program Committee with its co-chairs. Could you please stand up? So this committee, the Scientific Program Committee, I like its acronym SPC, has been responsible for the program, including interacting with invited scholars about their roles and responsibilities. I'll now invite a colleague to speak about some logistics. Dorothy. So Dorothy is from the Department of Science and Mathematics Education.
I too would like to welcome everybody to Brock as a member of the local organizing committee, and I'm here to just go through some logistical details to try to make your stay here and your conference as comfortable as possible. First thing I want to do is point out that we have some fabulous volunteers working for us. 5 of them are here now. If they would just stand up and wave their hands. They're wearing the bright red Brock t-shirt, so if you see them in the hallways, and they will be available a lot, please don't hesitate to stop them and ask them questions if you have them. Just want to remind you that all of our plenaries and panel discussions are going to be taking place in the same room, and that is the room that we are in right now, the beautiful GSB atrium. So please look for the signage on the walls if you forget how to get here. There is lots of signage there for you. Also want to remind you that your Wi-Fi and working group information is on the back of your name tag, and that it has been a change in the Saturday schedule. We're now going to be starting the working groups at 8:30, and the Fields Math Ed Forum is going to start at 9:45 and discussion panel at 10 a.m. So that should be reflected in the schedules that you have. But again, just wanted to remind you that we have a little bit earlier start on Saturday than we had first planned. Also want to mention that in case there's an emergency, and we certainly hope that there isn't one, you are welcome to contact any of the local organizers. Our emails are there. So either Stephen, Joyce, Chantel, or myself, and Chantel's phone number is also there if you need to contact her extremely immediately, but hopefully again, that doesn't happen. On Friday from 9 to 9:30 during our working group sessions, there is going to be fire alarm testing at Brock. The good news is it will not be in our buildings, so you do not have to be alarmed. If you are presenting a poster on Friday, setup is starting again at 8:30, and Joyce just mentioned this. We will have supplies available to you, and there will also be people there to help you if you need any assistance at all. We will be taking pictures. If you do have any issues with that, if you have any concerns about picture taking, please don't hesitate to let me know or one of the other local organizing committee members. If you're going on the guided tour on Saturday, you can leave your bags on the bus. The bus has just been reserved for participants in the guided tour, or you can leave your bags with the volunteers, and we will arrange to have them brought to your hotel. And if you have any announcements at all that are relevant to the attendees, please send them to Chantel. Her email again is there, and they will be shown either Friday at 1 o'clock or Saturday at 2:15.
So would like to thank our sponsors who made this event possible. Our funders have always been the Fields, Shark Connection Grant, our universities, and we've had a new funder, Callisto, and they also had a presentation or presentations at the PD Day. So we are really appreciative of the funding for this symposium. So as we end this session, on my own behalf and on behalf of the 2 research groups on computational modeling by Professor Butour and computational participation by myself, which have partnered in planning this symposium, we are very pleased to welcome you to this symposium. Please enjoy the symposium. Be sure to interact with other attendees and presenters. And we've been reminded that we're on a beautiful campus Be sure to have those conversations outdoors under the blossom, in the gardens across. So enjoy the symposium.